Okay, so this is something we wanted to try it's a little bit different for us, but it's a slightly longer form question and answer thing than we've done before. We've got the instructor tips video series and we do tutorials, and basically if you ring the office I'll try, and if I'm there or somebody can get hold of me, I'll try and answer any questions you get anyway. But we do occasionally get some questions that I think would benefit from a wider audience. So this is what we're going to start doing as a new series alongside the other series on the channel, and this is Ask a Professional. Because technically I am a professional, even though I don't always look like it. Sometimes I'm scruffy. Well, I'm always scruffy, and I've always got bits in my beard and things like that. But I have been doing this for pretty much all of my adult life, and I haven't had a proper job, ever. This is all I do. Work in the outdoors, train people, do stuff in the outdoors, sell the cumulative efforts of all of my mistakes. And that's what we are doing now. I'm selling you my mistakes and my experience, except I'm not selling it because it's for free. So we asked via our mailing list a few weeks ago if anybody had any questions they'd like to submit for this series, and Barry from South Wales got in touch with this question. Do you think he's Barry from Barry, or do you think he's Barry, lives in South Wales and everyone just thinks that's his address? There's a town called Barry in South Wales. Yeah. Anyway, his question is, my daughter is 16 and considering her university options. She loves coming walking and climbing with me and wants to become a mountain guide. Should she look to go to a university that has an outdoor education course or train elsewhere? Right. Well, I should probably say at the outset that I didn't go to university. I work with universities occasionally and I do some guest lecturing, but personally I didn't go to university. I was all set to go to university, and in the last few months of sixth form I decided actually I didn't want to go because I figured I would end up with an alcohol problem and a massive debt, which, judging by everybody I went to high school with and where they've ended up now, that would have been about right. But I didn't go to university, so I'm possibly not the best person to answer this, but I'll do what I can. The first thing is that these outdoor education courses, and there are quite a few out there, often in areas where they have already access to the mountains and to kayaking areas and places where you can regularly go out to do outdoor activities. They're kind of closer to sports science kind of courses, where you're not focused entirely on the skills. You're also looking at things like anatomy and teaching models and ways and coaching and nutrition and things like that. So it's not just about this is how to become the best climber in the world, or not even that. It's mostly about the wider subject of outdoor activity and outdoor sports and outdoor pursuits. So with these various university outdoor education programs, there is a thing with them where you don't actually really get any qualifications for working in the outdoors by going through that degree program, at least in most cases. Say for things like, well, you mentioned your daughter wants to become a mountain guide. So the first steps for that, realistically, on the mountain training syllabus is the Mountain Leader Award, or what used to be called the Mountain Leader Summer Award, or Summer Mountain Leader, whatever the hell it was called. Something I went through, 15 years ago or longer. I'm getting old. But that is kind of the base qualification or training certificate that you look for when you're employing either a freelancer or a full-time or part-time or whatever employee for what in the rest of the world might be called a mountain guide or a mountain leader, a trekking leader. Somebody who will take people on foot in small groups into the mountains, away from the roads and civilization for short or even extended periods of time. And that is the base qualification. And then you can move up from there. And I say the base qualification, there's also what used to be called the walking group leader is now the lowland leader, and then used to be the hill something leader, and it's now the hill and moorland leader, which cover terrain which is below 600 meters above sea level or something. Here's a link to the website, they'll explain it better than I can. Anyway, those base qualifications you don't really get with these outdoor education programs. I've got a few friends and a few colleagues who went through them years ago for their university degree, and they, as soon as they finished their degree and wanted to work with it, they still had to go out and get the qualification. They had done the training phase for those qualifications at university, but they hadn't actually gone through the assessment to get the qualification, to get the certificate to go out and work. So they still had to go and do that externally. When I did my mountain leader assessment, about half the people there on the course, on the assessment week, were there from various outdoor education degrees, getting their assessment after they had graduated. So there is that to consider. The other thing to consider is that it's a tough job. I don't mean physically tough, because lots of jobs are physically tough. I mean, it's a difficult job to make a living from. For a start, there aren't many jobs doing it. The vast majority in the outdoor industry, both for guiding on foot in the mountains and leading and that kind of thing, and instructing and paddlers and kayaking and canoeing coaches and mountain bike coaches and all the other disciplines and areas, there aren't really many full-time jobs. Most of the industry is made up of freelancers who work for everybody, and they work for a wide range of people in the area, and they take whatever work is coming along, or they work for maybe 3 or 4 bigger providers and just fill their calendar working for those people. We use them on the course. We've only got a couple of full-time employees working for Original Outdoors, and the rest of the instructing team is made up of freelancers who either have other jobs or work for other people, and that is kind of the norm. That means then that you are constantly self-employed as a freelancer without a contract, working on from day to day. The average day rate for a mountain leader in the UK at the moment, for Snowdonia, the Lake, Scotland, Peak, wherever, is about £120 to £130 a day. So if I said I wanted to find, 10 mountain leaders to work on a trip on Snowdon later next week, and I put posts out on the various freelance groups and emailed all our contacts, the day rate they will be expecting to see, and I would be expecting to pay, is about £130 a day, which is it's not £130 a day plus fuel, plus their insurance contributions and all of that. It's £130, that's it. You are a freelance, self-employed contractor, so you decide whether you're going to take that day's work and agree to it, and there are all sorts of rules about contracts and that kind of thing for employment in the UK. But if you're a bona fide contractor, you probably have your own insurance as well. You have to pay for your own fuel to get there. You have to pay for your own kit, everything you're wearing. It's not unusual for a mountain leader to be wearing or carrying £1,000 worth of equipment by the time you factor in good boots, proper waterproofs, the rucksack with everything in it, good first aid kits, GPS, group shelters, all these kind of things. They do add up. So you've got a fair amount of expenditure before you go anywhere near tax or national insurance contributions, which you'll still have to make even though you're self-employed. And then there's all the thing about marketing as well. Are you going to market yourself as a freelancer to other people, or are you going to try and become your own outdoor provider and try and set up your own courses and do your own thing? It's very, very difficult. And the other thing is, it's a very attractive job. A lot of people want to do it. There is a reason so many people want to get to the point where they can deliver the mountain training courses. And that's because there's an almost endless supply of people wanting to become mountain leaders, because on the face of it, it looks like a really fantastic career. You love mountain walking, you love walking in the mountains and scrambling and doing all these things every weekend. Wouldn't it be great if you could be paid for that? And yeah, it would. The thing is that a lot of people think like that, and everyone you're competing for those odd days and contracted jobs and whatever else it is, they all think like that as well, and they've all come from the same background. And Barry, if your daughter is looking to do this and wanting to go into this in her early 20s and straight out of university, then she'll be competing with every other person who's just had it as a good idea. And judging by what I see in the freelance industry now, a lot of people who have good, well-paid jobs elsewhere, which means they have been able to go off and get all of their logbook days and do all of the courses that are a prerequisite to that training, and fund it for themselves and treat it like a holiday, so that then when they get the work, they can just take the work and they don't rely on it. Their mortgage payments aren't relying on their odd days of freelance work and that kind of thing. And everyone wants to, all these jobs mostly occur at the weekend. Mostly the season runs from April through to the end of September, maybe into October. And everybody wants to do something on a Saturday and Sunday. So you end up with quite a lot of work available, but an even bigger pool of freelancers all fighting over it. And often it's first come, first served for some of these contracts. So your daughter will be fighting against someone who is much older and has a safe, stable income elsewhere and can find time to go off and accelerate through that training period and get all the logbook days and get through everything, have all the best kit, and be available every weekend for doing their dream job. And then when they retire, say if they're 40 and they retire when they're 55 with their massive pension, they can take all the freelance work if they wanted to. So it isn't just a pool of young freelancers all competing for the work and supporting each other. Actually, the majority of it is people looking for a second career or looking for something to carry on from what they've already done. So you've got that to consider. You've also got to consider stupid things like an injury. If you twist your ankle, say you love mountain biking, but you do most of your work as a mounted leader or something like that. If you twist your ankle mountain biking or have a minor injury, and it takes you 2 months to recover so you can walk in the mountains again, well, that could be a third of your working season for the year gone. So it means that a twisted ankle can become bloody expensive. I've had various injuries over the years and it has been expensive. A broken bone in my foot cost me several £1,000s worth of work. Mountain biking shoulder and spinal injury cost me probably upwards of £10,000 in lost work a few years ago. It's a substantial risk when your livelihood relies on you being fit and able to do it, because the person you're working for, if you say on Friday night, terribly sorry, I can't come and work for your group on Snowdon on Saturday because I've just twisted my ankle bouldering the night before, then they'll go, oh, terribly sorry, I hope you get well soon. Right, I'm going to go and look for the other 10 people who applied for this day's work but I said no to, and see if one of them can do it. They're not going to say, oh, right, well, here's your day's pay anyway, crack on. It's a tough business in that respect. So there is that to consider as well. It isn't always, it's not about the fantastic days in the mountains and the freedom of working in the outdoors and working with people and educating people and seeing that spark when somebody finally works out how to do a bearing and on the navigation course that you're teaching. It's all the boring day-to-day stuff. How am I going to pay for all of this? How much money am I actually going to earn? How much do I have to set aside for tax? Am I going to be a sole trader or a limited company? All those other boring things that come from setting up your own business. There's all that to consider as well. And that's true whether your daughter goes to university or not. Either way she gets to the training period, she has that. So, as I said at the beginning, I didn't go to university. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about in that regard. But I've gone through the whole freelance cycle to the point now where I don't freelance for anybody, but I have people working for me. So I'm now the other side of the coin. And when somebody sends their CV to me and I'm looking for whether they have a place within our freelance pool of instructors, what I'm looking for is depth and breadth of experience, not whether they have a degree in outdoor education. Not that they're worthless, it's just that I don't look down at that line. What I look at is, who else have you worked for? Have you done any trips overseas? Have you got other experience? Are you, I don't know, volunteer in a mountain rescue team? Or do you have some coaching experience in another thing? So Jan, who we interviewed for the Biscuit and a Brew thing a few weeks ago, I've known Jan for years, but he does things like he coaches in the Welsh Athletics and he has a lot of interest in other sports. I'm being smoked. There, back again. He has a lot of interest in other sports as well, which means that he can bring those coaching skills and those teaching skills to when he comes to work for me and works for Original Outdoors and takes a group out on an expedition, or teaches them expedition skills, or takes people into terrain that they're uncomfortable with and helps them work out why they're uncomfortable with it and what to do next, all in a calm, measured way, because he's been there before, showing other people how to get through difficult things. So when I'm looking for somebody to employ or to have as a freelance contractor on our books, I'm looking for somebody with a wide experience and not necessarily just in an outdoors field. I'm also looking for somebody who can talk, somebody who is comfortable talking to complete strangers, and to somebody I can trust to be put in front of a group of 10 probably fairly well motivated, possibly slightly cynical people, and then take them out on a day's training. And know that they'll not only deal with the banter, but they'll find that they'll know what is the right thing to say at the right time, and they won't say something horrendously inappropriate or be too quiet and just let the mood drop. There's a fine art to working with groups and that kind of thing, and there's elements of leadership in there. The Mountain Leader Awards and the other mountain training awards don't actually teach you that much about leadership properly. They teach you a lot about how to keep a group safe and how to do river crossings and move over steep ground and that kind of thing. But in terms of real leadership, being able to work out quickly what motivates or doesn't motivate this group of individuals and how to steer them towards a common goal, that doesn't really come into it. So you learn that elsewhere in life. So going back round to the original question, if your daughter wants to make a career in this world, which is quite possible to do, then she needs to not just look at the qualifications and the outdoor stuff itself. It's this breadth of experience, which is probably good advice for anybody going off to work out what the hell they're going to do in life. The other thing is keep your options open, because the way my work and my career is running now isn't anywhere near what I thought it was 5 years ago. It's definitely not what I thought it was 10, 15 years ago. So it's not just what you're expecting, how you're expecting your career to run and planning it all out. It's about being resilient and having maybe even a sort of a backup experience to fall on. Most of the things I teach now, most of my time is spent teaching either skills that I learnt through volunteering for 10 years in mountain rescue and work following on from that, things I did working for one particular company, working as an expedition and medic and doing medical stuff on big outdoor challenges, and foraging stuff that was almost beaten into me when I was 12 by my parents, or my mother particularly. Those are the three things that I work mostly with now. And just the other outdoor qualifications and training I have are in support of that. But I wouldn't have predicted that those three things were going to make up the majority of my income 15 years later. So going to university now is a very different thing to what it was 15, 20 years ago. It's very difficult to get most positions now without a degree. So where I didn't go to university, and I've done okay out of that, I would probably recommend to people to either go straight to a trade or go to university. But don't just go for the easiest degree you can do and have the university experience. Actually consider whether that's going to be useful afterwards when you get out. So another thing for your daughter to consider is go to university, but don't go to university for outdoor education. Go to university and maybe pick somewhere which has fantastic access to the outdoors. So I know a lot of people go to places like Sheffield because there's a fantastic mountaineering and climbing club, and there's a Peak District right there. You can go climbing every evening in the summer. You can go hill walking in the Peak District. The Lake District isn't that far away. And if you join the University Mountaineering, Climbing, Adventure Club, whatever it is, you get to go on very cheap, almost free trips out to other places where you can stay in the university club hut in the middle of the mountains, the middle of nowhere, and go and do 3 days of mountain walking back to back and then get minibused back to university. And you can build up all your logbook days and experience at university and still go on to do your training and qualifications in the outdoors afterwards, but also build up this big network of connections and experience and just find out whether it's actually what you want to do. Because if you are in a university club, then there's often the chance in your second and third year to teach other people, to teach the first years who are coming back up, who are coming in as new intake. So you get the opportunity to find out whether you do actually enjoy teaching stuff in the outdoors and leading groups. Because a mistake a lot of people make is they really like mountain walking, but what they really like doing is choosing where they want to go that weekend and going walking up a mountain. What they don't like doing is climbing Snowdon via the Llanberis track for the 40th time that year with another group which looks very much like the group they had yesterday and the group they had last weekend, and so on. There's a lot of repetition and a lot of tedium in teaching and working in the outdoors, because everybody wants to keep going doing the same thing, and you get a new group every time. So getting some experience teaching can be useful, even if you find there's nowhere that actually she doesn't want to do that. What she likes doing is going walking in the mountains. Well, get yourself a well-paid job with plenty of time off, and you'll get into the mountains more often than I will. So there are all those things to consider. So I know this isn't a clear-cut, yes, you should go to university, or nah, don't go, it's crap. Because I don't think that's useful. I think what you need is some way of splitting down actually what you want to do, which when you're 16, nobody knows what you want to do. And what you want to do when you're 16 should not dictate the rest of your life at all. Gap year, travelling, working, volunteer work for a couple of years or something like that might be useful. You're a very different person when you're 20 to what you were when you're 18. And again, choices when you're 18 shouldn't dictate the rest of your life. When I was 18, I was a complete dickhead. I'm a complete dickhead now, but I'm a complete dickhead for different reasons. It's not, because it's a university degree, the best way to get into the outdoor industry. It is a route into it. It is the best route for some people, probably, but it's not the best route for everybody because it is a university. If you ask a university that's offering this program, of course they're going to say, yes, it is the best way to get a well-paid job in the outdoor industry, and the best way is with them, because they have a vested interest in getting as many people onto the course so it survives and those lecturers keep working. I know. I have friends who do that for a living, and they do that every year. It is a route, so look closely at all the other routes and speak to other people who've been through it as well. People who've been through it more recently than me, maybe. I'm going to link below some female instructors who have made a good career from working in the outdoors, and they are also fantastic people as well. So I'm going to link, they'll all be in the links below this video, and if I've edited it properly, the names should be, I don't know, somewhere down here coming through, their Twitter or Instagram handles. But I'm thinking particularly of Lucy and Kate and Rebecca and people like that. So there are other people to speak to and more information to get, but do consider that it's not a career that is particularly easy to get into, or one that you want to get into. And particularly, there's no pension scheme for it, and I haven't got a pension, and I'm 36, and retirement is approaching maybe in the next 20 years, and I don't know how I'm going to pay for that yet. So there's all those things to consider, and the risk of it, and also the outdoor industry might change again in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. It'll be something completely different. It was something very different 10 years ago. It'll be something very different 10 years from now. So look, don't try and nail it down to what it is now or what you think it's going to be. Look for other opportunities and other routes into it, and try and nail down that. Do you want to work in the outdoors, or do you just love being in the outdoors? Because they can be very different things. That's all I can offer is, I didn't go to university. I don't know what it's like. What I knew 15 years ago is barely relevant now. Life never actually does what you expect it's going to do, and don't try and steal my job. That's basically it. No, try and get more information if you can, but consider the wider options, because it is not necessarily as it appears. If you do make a success of it, brilliant. It's a fantastic career. I love what I do. I don't make a lot of money doing what I do, but I love what I do. I hope that's helpful, Barry. Thank you for watching. Send your questions down to the email address below, put them in the comments below, and I'll try and answer your questions. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time.